Now that is how you do a tag team tournament properly. I'm John Ritland with a retro view of WCW Great American Bash 1992. Featuring said tournament to crown new NWA Tag Team Champions. You have the current WCW Tag Team Champions, Dr. Death Steve Williams and Terry Bam Bam Gordy, trying to become Team Two Belts, and also Sting versus Vader for the WCW World title to kick off their epic rivalry that would go into 93, and they would even have matches in 94. My God, Sting versus Vader, they could never have a bad goddamn match at all. I would argue that his feud with Vader was right up there with his feud with Flair, even though his feud with Flair did go on longer. I like the matches with Vader just a little, just about equal, I guess. And maybe in the case, the David versus Goliath thing always worked. This pay-per-view, one of my favorites, and also 1992 was a great year for WCW pay-per-views, despite the fact that at this point they were in the Bill Watts era, and he had some good ideas, and, focusing on athletics and everything, and focusing on in-ring action, but unfortunately, he was also stuck in the past, and this was an example of bringing a guy here and trying to have him fix the company, and it didn't fucking work. It really didn't. The stupid top rope rule, you couldn't do moves off the top rope, or you couldn't do stuff over the top rope. You couldn't, send somebody over the top rope, or it's a disqualification. I always hated that fucking rule. That's the one thing I hate about the territory days. I always hated that. But we open with Shivani and Magnum TA introducing us, talking about the NWA Tag Team Tournament. Then we see footage of Williams and Gordy eliminating the Steiners at the Clash and winning the WCW Tag Team Championship. So they were just, really getting rolling as champions. And also, this was in between their times where they were touring in Japan. Williams and Gordy were an incredible tag team in Japan, and an incredible tag team here in the States. JR and Jesse Ventura on commentary. Now, I will say right off the bat, not every single match of this tournament, not every single match on this show worked, and I'll tell you why. But that being said, this is well worth your time. Some might find this pay-per-view boring. I didn't, because I love me some tag team wrestling, and when done right, it is absolutely tremendous. So we had Bill Watts being interviewed by Eric Bischoff. I'm sure that worked out pretty well for Eric Bischoff, who has noted, been noted as saying he did not care for Bill Watts. And apparently a lot of other people didn't during the time he ran WCW. So the top rope rule is in effect for the world title match, but not the tag team tournament. Okay, cool. So we can do flippy shit and everything off the ropes. Like wrestling should fucking be done. And then we get Brian Pillman and Jushin Thunder Liger kicking off against Nikita Koloff and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Quarterfinal match, 30-minute time limit. All the matches have 30-minute time limit. This is good shit. I mean, Pillman and Liger, who had an incredible match at Super Brawl 2 in February of this year. Well, of this year, 1992. Not this, would have been a little difficult this year. Anyway, moving on. This was really good, featuring high flyers against Steamboat, who's also a high flyer, but is a lot stronger. And Nikita Koloff, who was unfortunately near the end of his full-time in-ring career as he would suffer a neck injury against Vader, I believe at Halloween Havoc 92. This is good stuff. Koloff got his arm targeted and everything, so he couldn't hit the Russian sickle. Very nice wrestling, very good work here. Steamboat does reverse the crossbody from Pillman to pin him 1, 2, 3, and they advance to the semifinals. Then we get a Steiner interview. The promos were never their strong suit. That being said, they made some sense, but boy, they told their stories a lot better in the ring. And you could kind of catch, instances of Scott Steiner kind of going a little bit unhinged at this point. And this is years before the big bad booty daddy thing that he would do. Then we hit a bit of a brick wall here. Hiroshi, Hase, and Shinyana Hashimoto. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Hashimoto as well. Just call them Hase and Hashimoto. Two legends of Japan, no doubt. Hashimoto, unfortunately, no longer with us. I believe died in 0405. And Hase is also really good. And you get them against the fake Freebirds, Haze and Gavin. And the crowd was chanting USA. Of course, it was in Albany, Georgia, so why not? And all due respect to anybody in Georgia, but no surprise, there were massive USA chants. The match was okay. The shortest match of the show, it was just under 10 minutes. And Hase and Hashimoto are really good. And Haze, good promo, great promo even. Decent work at best. Gavin at this point really didn't have all that much left. He was near the end of his career. Northern Lights by Hase gets the victory 1, 2, 3. Thank God the Japanese contingent advances. And then we get Rick Rude and Stunning Steve Austin versus Dustin and Barry Windham. Dustin Rhodes and Barry Windham, that is. They didn't have a third Windham brother. because Kendall certainly, wasn't exactly the best second brother. That's mean, because Kendall wasn't bad, he just wasn't very good in the ring. Enough being mean towards people. Another quarterfinal match, and Ventura pointed out, hey, why is Windham's hand taped? He has his hand broken, I think around Halloween Havoc 91 or something like that. And why is it taped? He kept doing it, and he kept pointing out all the illegal stuff, which actually was pretty good. How could this match not be good with all these talents involved? Rude, unfortunately, no longer with us, but Rick Rude was really doing well here. He had just come off a great match that he had against Ricky Steamboat at Beach Blast 92, I believe. And they did some great stuff. Rude and Austin isolate Windham, and then eventually top rope lariat from Dustin Rhodes gets the victory. 1, 2, 3. Austin gets pinned. He had TV and U.S. champion at the time, so, because Rude would be the U.S. champion for a while, and then he would drop it to Dustin, and they would have a feud over at N93, and then Austin would win the U.S. title from Dustin at Starrcade 93. So this is actually a pretty good match, though. Then we get Bischoff with Vader and Race, main event hype, basically. It's pretty good stuff. Nikita Koloff and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and Terry Bam Bam Gordy. And Williams and Gordy got an advantage here because their quarterfinal match took place in the Clash. So actually, this was the second match for Koloff and Steamboat, and first for Williams and Gordy. Now, it's good stuff. Really, I mean, how could it not be good? How could it not be good with these talents? It's very unfortunate. Williams and Gordy especially died so young. I mean, Williams was, not necessarily old, but it's just really sad how Gordy died as young as he did. I mean, what was he, 35? Was he 35, maybe 37? I mean, that's just really sad. Mix of good, power moves, good mat wrestling and everything. Steamboat got isolated for a bit. Variation of Oklahoma Stampede, pinned Steamboat eventually, and the champs, the tag champs, the WCW tag champs advance into the finals. And then we get Hase and Hashimoto versus Dustin and Windham, semifinal match. Decent. This was better than the one that they had against Haze and Gavin. Do not misunderstand me. But it was a clash of styles, and I think had this taken place in Japan, it might have been a little bit better. The crowd wasn't really invested in what Hase and Hashimoto could do. But that being said, I think they got them on their side just a little bit. They played some great heels here. Dustin did get targeted, got even hit with a spike pile driver at one point. Ouch, that looked like it hurt. Windham hit a lariat at one point and got Hase pinned 1, 2, 3. And Shivani and Magnum TA talk about the finals, and then Ron Simmons is here, and he wants to be world champion at some point, so he sits in with Shivani while they watch Vader with Harley Race versus Sting for the WCW Championship, and this Magnifique. This, I still say their Starrcade 92 match was just a bit better than this, but they hyped this up well. Sting had won at Super Brawl 92, and it held it. This was just about I think he'd held it just about 5 months at this point. Or close to 5 months. I think Super Brawl might have taken place in the middle of February. The whole point is he had beaten Liger, who had left and gone to WWE, the World Bodybuilding Federation. Great idea. It wasn't a good idea. God, Vince wasted so much money on that. The pace was tremendous. It was all about, could Sting outlast Vader? Because Sting would hit a bunch of moves on Vader, or try to hit some stuff, and he tried to come back, but Vader would just beat him down because Vader, outweighed him by like 140 pounds. He was just beating the shit out of him. And then Sting was eventually coming back, even hit some nice power moves, would go for the Stinger Splash, and Vader moved. Well, actually, Sting kind of overshot it and hit his head into the, turnbuckle area and busted himself open. And then soon after, Vader Bomb, 1, 2, 3, new WCW heavyweight champion, Big Van Vader, who would lose it to Ron Simmons a couple months afterwards, or like a month afterward. It was a month or two afterward. He would lose it because, unfortunately, I think he needs some kind of shoulder surgery or something like that. He just wasn't able to. He just wasn't able to hold on to it for long. Though, great pop for Ron Simmons. Can you let me know, because sometimes I can't find it. Is the Ron Simmons WCW title win on the network? Like, is it actually on there? Because if it is, I would love to know. Or if you can find it on YouTube, please post it in the comments, because I would like to retro review that at some point. I just can't remember what WCW show it happened on. I know it happened, I believe, August 8th, 1992, I think. But I just remember that being a pop. But this was incredible. Vader and Sting kicking off that epic feud. And then we get Williams and Gordy versus Dustin and Windham. Good stuff. Really good. I mean, how could it not be? Windham and Dustin were competing in their third match. Williams and Gordy in their second match. But this is really good shit. Ole Anderson as the special guest referee. And that was about the only bad part of this, because Ole was not a very good referee. You would think that he would have literally wanted to have been anywhere else at this point. I mean, he probably didn't want to be on camera because he retired a whole bunch of times. That being said, good mat work, good, power moves and everything. Huge lariat eventually with a big old schmoz. Pins Dustin, 1, 2, 3. And, Williams and Gordy are the NWA and WCW Tag Team Champions. And this is good shit. Now, unfortunately, they would lose. Well, they would be the champions for a while, but then the NWA WCW relationship would dissolve sometime in '93, I believe. Sometime May of '93, I think. I think it was May of '93, and they would do that, and then they would create the International Championship sometime afterwards. Oh boy, Rick Rude holding that for a bit. Rick Rude, I love the guy, but that was a terrible, terrible championship. This was a good pay-per-view, though. I really, really enjoyed it. I love tag team wrestling. And yes, I can see how some people might not like the pace, but I would love to know what you guys have to say in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.